Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. But not just any episode.
Not just any. It is our 1 year anniversary. Also the Halloween special.
Yes, it's a combo. You get a combo deal from us.
Yeah. So like a year ago, we released Batman Hush, and from like my recording on a cell phone, and I tried to make the audio as good as possible.
We have come a long way.
Yes, we got some new mics. We got some better understanding of comics, and we were thinking about doing like a redo of that episode, just to reread Batman Hush for like our last 50th or our I guess 1 year anniversary. But then we read this one because it was just happened to be like, you know, Halloween, long Halloween. It made sense. And then I was like, oh, this is like a way better version of Hush. So let's just talk about this one, and we don't have to worry about Batman Hush. So, and I think we even mention it in Batman Hush, like, oh, long Halloween, that's good. And I'm like, what? We'll see. We'll read it. We'll see if it is. But
well, yeah, because especially at that time, I was like, I think I'd read like one or two Batman stories at the first one, and I was like,
now we've read a bit, like 4 or 5 or something. You've read 4 or 5. Maybe I've read. I got into Batman way more because of this podcast. Yeah. So I've been reading like a shit ton. No, but I mean, like I've been reading.
Oh, yeah, because you went back and you've been reading. What's the Nightfall series?
The Nightfall series from the 90s, which is like all the when Batman got his back broken by Bane. No, it's all canon.
Oh, it is canon.
Oh yeah, it's canon. Oh. But it's like when Bane broke Batman's back. That whole like him getting his back broken. Then like when Azrael took over, and then when Azrael went rogue, and then Batman has to come back from his back broken.
Nice.
And beat his ass. So yeah, like this has been really fun. Like, you know, getting into Batman more because he's always been a character I liked. Like, I like the animated series and everything when I was a kid, but I don't know, the comics are just so, like, hard to know where to start, what to get into, unless you have a trade like this, where it's like, here's a one story arc that's awesome or whatever. So, I had already read this before, and I don't think I've said the name fully. It is Batman, The Long Halloween is the name of the book we did this week. It is by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And Jeff Loeb was the writer of Batman Hush, which is why we were comparing that in the episode of Hush. And I would say that this is like 1,000 times better than Hush.
This is a superior quality Batman.
Yeah, this is like, if you, as everybody says, Batman Hush is like a great, if you want to like read a thing with all the villains in it. I'm like, no, this one has all the villains in it, and it's a better story. So like, we don't need any of that shit from Batman Hush, and I can tell what's going on the page because fucking Tim Sale is a goddamn master artist, and he just threw his dick on the table, like, here you go. I'm doing 13 inches of
13 issues.
I'm sorry, yes, 13 issues of awesome comicsness, and it is 13 inches, by the way. Tim Sale's dick, and so yeah, because this book is fucking amazing. The art is so good in it. If you like Tim Sale, obviously he is an artist who is doing his own style. So if you don't like his style, you can still not like his style, but you can't say the art's not good.
Okay, so I will chime in here because when I first started, like the cover is really cool. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then turning in, it's definitely a little different. And so it took me probably an issue to like fully get into art and start to appreciate it more. But once I was into the comic reading, and one thing again, we were saying 13 issues. It does not feel like 13 issues. This
it goes by fast.
A smooth like for being one of the longest ones technically that we read, it did not feel that long.
I think this is the longest one we read.
This is what I was saying. It may be
in one setting.
Yeah. But it did not feel like it. I never was bored. There was a couple like I thought it was over, and then I was like, oh, there's more to read. Okay. Yeah. But overall, like, yeah, this comic was wonderful, and specifically Tim Sale's art, and like Batman has really long ears, and sometimes it's weird, but in this comic, it wasn't. Like, I was really cool, like, especially some of the way angles, Matt was saying, like, the way we look at some of the pages and the way the angles are, was like, oh, he looks really cool there.
Yeah.
We'll get into it as we get some of the characters, like, some of the villains, like, some of the villains are weird, some of the villains are like, that's a badass, like, version of this villain.
Yeah,
like,
some of the villains
cool.
have the best versions, I think, in this, or at least top 5,
top tier for sure.
top 1 or 2 versions. I personally like this artwork better than Jim Lee's in Hush. Not that, like, his Batman is iconic in Hush, but the other designs of the other characters I don't like as much.
Yeah, there's only one villain in this. It's not that I didn't like. It was just weird, and we'll get. I'll tell you about it when we get close to it.
Okay. I'm excited because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that.
But yeah, so this story is kind of you might feel similar if you've or you might feel like you know it a little bit if you've watched Batman: The Dark Knight, because even though this isn't or dark, is it called Dark Knight?
So Batman Begins and The Dark Knight have like elements pulled from this story
for sure. Which is weird because the new Batman movie is supposed to be rumored to be this story.
Yeah. So wait a minute.
So he's got 3. This is potentially 3 Batman movies take shit from this stuff. So, and so basically, this is pre Two-Face. So Harvey Dent is still like a district attorney. And him, Gordon, and Bruce Wayne / Batman are like trying to better the city in their own ways. And a common thing that is said in this is, I believe in Gotham City. I believe in Harvey Dent, which is very, like, I was reading this and I'm like, this is totally taken from this comic from, for Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yep.
I mean, that whole, like, I believe in Harvey Dent stuff, and I mean, that it was crazy. I was like, oh shit, like this is really like that. And then also it's all about the mob bosses taking over at first, and so there's 2 families that are like the heads of these mobs. One's called the Falcones and one's the Maroni. And so is it Falcone or Falcone?
I think Falcone.
Okay, I think so too. I was reading it, I'm like, I don't know, but I'll just say Falcone. Because Maroni is spelled with an I at the end and Falcone is spelled with an E at the end. So I was like, whatever. But the Falcones are the number 1 family and the Maronis are number 2. So they're always like fighting and, rivaling and whatnot. And basically, this story is the downfall of Harvey Dent. This is how he becomes Two-Face.
This is quintessential of like a Batman villain becoming a villain because of the events that take place around Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Yeah.
And this is like Batman being a detective. This was so cool to see him like not like he punches and kicks people and like beats people up, but the focus on this is definitely I am a detective and I am piecing things together.
Yeah. And like I'm doing it too as the reader. Like I'm with you on this journey. Yeah. Not like Batman Hush where he would make those jumps and then not take us there, and then he would just reveal it later. Oh yeah, I knew that. I totally knew that.
I totally knew that.
Yeah. you didn't pick it up? What are you, an idiot?
You didn't surprise me. I knew that.
Yeah.
No surprise.
Like, oh, you didn't know that Jason Todd was not real, and it was, it's like, oh, okay. I guess I don't know. Like, you're the writer, dude. You're supposed to tell me like what's going on and explain things. But yeah, he does Jeff Loeb does a really good job in this. There was only a couple things that me and you had to like talk. Okay, exactly what happened here, but it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was just that because the book is so long, there was like enough time in between to be like, okay, how many people died in this, and like who's responsible for which deaths and what's going on. But basically, like we said, there's 2 crime families. They're fighting over Gotham. Batman is around, but he is fighting. There are bad guys like Joker and all those people, but they're in Arkham for the most part at the beginning. And then like every one of these issues takes place on a holiday because someone is dying on holidays, or someone's killing people on holidays, we should say. And this is a new villain called the Holiday Killer, or just Holiday, depending on what the newspaper called them. But yeah, so like it's a big like who done it? Who is this Holiday person? And they even talk to like Calendar Man in prison, and he's like, he is like this. I'm like, how do you know it's a he? And he's like, well, she would go around, and like, wait, is it he or she? Like, what are you talking about? And so like basically he's kind of like the Hannibal Lecter in this because he's definitely, I think this was definitely modeled kind of after like Silence of the Lambs style, where he's behind like glass and everything, and he's got like weird creepy looks on his face. And if they just gave him like a widow's peak, like a hair,
Yeah.
then he would have like the Anthony Hopkins face or whatever.
Is Calendar Man like a really old Batman?
Yes.
No, I see. It felt like a 50, like out of like Adam West Batman. Or
Yes,
something.
I think it's an idea that that originally was stupid, and then they made it cool later on. Like someone made it like, oh, he's a super fucked up serial killer or whatever. Not like, yeah, I don't think he was Hannibal Lecter back when he started. I think it was like, oh, I kill people in January or whatever, you know, and like, you know, I'm stupid or whatever. Yeah, some of these villains are pretty dumb when they start off, and then they get a good writer like, you know, Alan Moore or something in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that was like the most badass character ever. So, but yeah, the main story of this is the Batman and Gordon and DA Harvey Dent are teaming up to take down these crime families, and specifically to take, and also like find out who the holiday killer is. But like these crime families are like killing everybody and have been horrible. And so one of the first things they do, and this is like in the first book, you see like Harvey Dent's got his wife, and she's like, you spend so much time on these trials. Like, I thought we were going to have like a family after you were done with this. And she's like, well, you know, we got all these things going on, you know, like I can't just drop out. And then like even Batman and all of them, like they say to each other, like Gordon and Dent, they're like, we making a blood oath, kind of like a pact. We will take on this crime head on or whatever, like together. And then like they instantly like start thinking the other one's the murderer and stuff. So it's kind of interesting like that. But they even do something similar where they get all of his money, all of Falcone's money from a bank, and then they burn it. And like just like in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, because I guess the Falcone really wants to get hit. Like they're have a lot of cash they're hoarding now, and they're like they need somewhere to put it, so they want to put it in the Bank of Gotham.
Yeah, and well, basically, yeah, like the story's kind of long and convoluted, or like it's 13 issues, so we can't go into super detail. Yeah. So some of the stuff you might just have to, like, if you're interested in why that's like that, you go read the book. But like basically, they try to get Batman or Bruce Wayne to allow them to like do funding or like move money for them and invest in his company, and he's like, no. And so they have all this extra cash that's just sitting around in a warehouse, basically, because they can't put it in a bank.
Legitimately, just in a warehouse.
They can't put it in a bank because it's illegal money that hasn't been laundered yet. And they're trying to launder it through Bruce Wayne, but he can't. And so they burn, like, I mean, I thought it was a cityscape at first. And then I saw that they're next to it. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's smaller than a building. I thought it was like a skyscraper or a bunch of skyscrapers, but it was actually money piled so high that they looked like G.I. Joes or something next to it. And then they light it on fire and it fucking burns. That's like all of his money. He's like, this will hit him harder. And then at the end of that, in the first issue, after they do that, they're like, well, that'll get him where it hurts. And everybody goes home, Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent and everybody. And then Harvey's wife is like, oh, you got a package in the mail. And then he's like, what? Give that here. And then you see someone outside in a car and they blow up a bomb in that package. And then that's kind of like what starts this whole thing. Is like someone tries to kill them, and then someone at the end of the issue actually goes and kills one of Falcone's, or his nephew.
His nephew, yeah. His nephew's having a wedding and he kills him.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of part of a like a tit for tat kind of thing. Like, oh, you try to kill Harvey Dent, well then I'll kill, one of your guys. Yeah. So at first, like, only Falcone's men are getting killed. Yeah. In the second issue, some Irish guys that were like working for him, they all get killed.
And that's on Christmas?
That's on Thanksgiving.
Or Thanksgiving, pardon me.
And then on Christmas, there's a party on a boat, and then his son, Falcone's son, Alberto, that's what. Okay. Al, we'll call him Al.
Well, there's Alfred.
Oh yeah, I know. I got confused because I thought it was going to be Alfonso, but you said it's
Alberto.
Okay. I don't know why in my head sometimes I put different names for people, and then it's hard when we do the podcast. So.
One thing we'll say is with every kill, the reason parts of the holiday killers, they're killed on the holiday, and when they find the bodies, there's a holiday trinket. Like for Halloween, it was like a light up pumpkin, and then there's always the gun that we use to kill them. That has like it's a small 22 caliber gun that has the serial number scratched off, and the butt is taped up.
Yeah.
And then they use,
which is weird. They leave the gun, so every time they have to buy a new gun. And it's a very specific gun. Now I don't know, John, if you're familiar with this gun, and I don't know if maybe Tim Sale just liked the look of it or something, but it is a Ruger, Mark II or III, whatever would have been in this, which it was just a 22 caliber bullet that it's not like it's a very like specific gun. So if you wanted to, you could be like, hey. I'm gonna go to every gun store and see who's buying a fucking new who's buying a new Ruger, Mark III or whatever it is, and every holiday, and then like trace it down or whatever. But they said they're getting like underground or something. I'm like, sure. It just seemed like something weird. And then also it's a weird caliber to kill someone with.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, a 22 is not usually a caliber. I mean, out of a handgun, it's not really the best, I wouldn't think. But
and then on top of that. He was using he or she, the killer, was using a baby like bottle nipple over the end as like a quote unquote silencer.
Yeah. Which I'm like, I don't know if that would work, but
no, it just seems like an extra layer to put the bullet through to slow it down a tiny bit.
Yeah. So I don't know everything on this. It seemed like they don't know a lot about guns. Who wrote the guys who wrote this and drew it, but. It looks cool. The gun is a very distinct model. It kind of looks like a German Luger, but it's actually a Ruger with an R. So, great gun. Anybody's into firearms. But yeah, so that's the only like weird thing about this comic. I'm like, why would you pick a 22? Like, why would they go for something else that's like a better? I don't know, or like I don't know. It just seemed like, and it's such a distinct gun.
Yeah, and like you said, it's weird that he like the little trinket is fine. Like I get that. It's like Halloween was a pumpkin. Thanksgiving there was like a cornucopia. Christmas there was like a
champagne glass.
Yeah. No, that was New Year's.
Oh, that was New Year's. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember Christmas. It was like an ornament or something.
Yeah.
And then again, for every holiday, there's something like that. Like a little trinket. And they also left a gun.
Yes.
So they had. At least, I mean, this goes on. It's called The Long Halloween because the first kill was on Halloween.
And it goes the whole year. They'll pick a holiday. You don't know which holiday he's going to pick. Because as they find out when they start asking Calendar Man, like, oh, who do you think it is? He's like, well, he's going to kill on a holiday. And then he starts naming all the holidays. And it's like too many holidays.
Yeah. Like January's like President's Day.
He says Lincoln's birthday, Washington's birthday. I'm like, those aren't holidays. But yeah, different. Like there's so many holidays in quotation marks.
Yeah,
you can pick, but basically they pick kind of bigger ones. Even though they do like April Fool's Day, I'm like that's not really a holiday.
But except that one was funny the way they did that. I like that one.
But so the main part of this is like I said, someone's killing at first Falcone's men, and until they get to Alberto. And then Alberto is his son. He dies on a boat, but he falls in the river.
Yeah, on New Year's Eve, he's the one who gets.
Well, who died on Christmas then?
Christmas was the.
I don't know. There's a lot of people who died in the Falcone murders.
It was a bodyguard of.
Oh, that's right.
Falcone.
Yes. Okay. That's
sorry. His name is Carmine Falcone the Roman.
Yeah. That's and they use his name. All three of those names.
All three of those.
So I'm like, wait, which one is Roman? Which one is Falcone? Which one is? Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, the Roman's bodyguard Falcone, aka Carmine. He loses his nephew, his bodyguard, his like main henchmen who are like these Irish guys, and then his son finally, and then all of a sudden, the killer changes his MO or their MO and starts killing the rival family's guys. So Maroney's guys start getting killed, and then in the meantime, some interesting things happen with like Bruce Wayne. He gets like some woman. He's on a date with Selena Kyle. So we say him and Selena Kyle in this, I like a lot. I like their relationship as Catwoman and Batman, and also as Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle. I will say Tim Sale's Selena Kyle and Tim Sale's Catwoman are top favorite looking, Catwoman / Selena Kyle.
I like her costume a lot. It's really cool.
I like her costume, but I also just like the way he draws her. She just looks like, I don't know. She looks like she's gonna tear you to pieces, but in the best way possible. And
are you saying that she's a hot Catwoman?
I'm gonna say she's a hot Catwoman. She's a man eater. That's the song that should play every time she walks into a room. It's, oh, here she comes. Because that's what she looks like. She just, I don't know, something about her, like the way he draws her as Selena, as like just a regular woman. She's very like, she just looks like that. And then even as Catwoman, she's even more because she's like she's like you said, she's super muscular in this. So
yeah,
she's like, but not like a overly like her arms are buff, but she's got like abs and the suit's super tight, but it's not extremely sexy. Like it's not like Jim Balance. I don't know if you've ever seen the Catwoman from the 90s. Very similar cat suit as far as like it's purple like that. And I think that's kind of where he was taking the inspiration from. But Jim Ballant is known for drawing extremely curvy women, and basically it just looked like he would drew her naked and then painted on a cat suit. Whereas this looks like, it looks like a suit. It looks like, form fitting, but it's not overly sexy.
Definitely not.
But there's something about it that I'm like, I'm into it,
it looks like a suit, but like it looks like there's a layer over her head a bit for her cat ears and face,
probably protection because there's like a bridge on her nose, and like
there's her boots that she's like boots as part of her costume.
Thigh high boots,
and they look like they are tactical yet like they fit the costume.
And also suggestive.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, it looks like it is like a actual suit that is useful as well as.
Yes. So it's one of my favorite, and her claws are very cool too. Like they're like integral to her hands in the suit. So like she has full gloves that's part of the suit, and then also they have claws in them that are like built in. So they don't come out. They're always just there ready to like fuck you up. So yeah,
and like you said, they do a really good job when it's Batman, and I don't know. They never really say for sure if they know that they are the other people, but when it's Batman and Catwoman, they definitely have that playful, like Catwoman's always like, is she good? Is she good? Is she bad? She's always playing the kind of the middle lane there, and then
which I love.
Yeah, I know that's
what makes her fun.
Exactly, and then when it's Bruce and Selena, they're very much like, oh, you can tell like he's like definitely into her, and she's kind of playing like the hard to get, and then kind of like aloof sometimes until
fucking Poison Ivy comes out when they're on a date, and she walks up. She's got her face covered and stuff, so you can't see her. And she's like, "Oh, rose for your date?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he like reaches out, and she pricks his finger with one of the rose's thorns. And then now we know as the reader, like she's gonna take control of him. So she's actually working for Falcone because obviously his money is not able to be. Most of it's burned, but also whatever he's making extra now that isn't burned, he doesn't want it to burn again. So he's trying to figure out what to do. So basically, he figures out if he breaks a bunch of people out of Arkham to cause some havoc for Batman and stuff, and also just in general, like cover his tracks, he can use Poison Ivy or like hire her to brainwash Bruce Wayne to then go on his board and be like, I will allow Falcone to invest in our business and we will be partners or whatever. And so like that's what she does.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes Harvey Dent like more suspicious of like.
Yeah, and like we said, they as this goes on, at first they're like buddies forever, and then as it goes on, they're like, wait a second, maybe Harvey Dent's the killer, and then like maybe Bruce Wayne's the killer, and then like we never think that as the audience, other than maybe it's Harvey Dent. Like Harvey Dent was the one that was like the whole time okay, and no one thinks Gordon kills anybody, but like he's the only one that's like above a reproach in this pretty much, but like it's like who done it. As the audience, we know obviously Bruce Wayne ain't killing anybody, but like Harvey doesn't know that, so Harvey's looking at everybody all crazy, and he gets crazier and crazier through this whole thing, which is kind of what leads to the very end when he gets like when he becomes Two-Face. So like we said, now Bruce Wayne has like given into Falcone's demands, so like Harvey's like, why would he do that? Like he's in their pocket or whatever. Like they actually like arrest Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
And like they're like, look at this proof. Your dad worked for him, and now you're working for him, and you're helping him, and all this shit. And he's like, no, like, what are you talking about? And they like basically they're able to get him because Falcone, in like a later issue, uses Scarecrow, and Scarecrow attacks Batman, but no one knows that he's Bruce Wayne, obviously. But when they find Bruce Wayne, he's like freaking out in the graveyard with his mom. Or no, at first he's in like the alleyway where like he's gonna leave a rose in Crime Alley for his mom because it's Mother's Day, and so he leaves a rose, and then they're like, there he is, get him, freeze, we're gonna arrest you, and then he runs because he's all scared because he's all like under the fear toxin, and then he ends up running to like the grave of his mom, and then they arrest him there, and he's like, no, Mom, I could have saved you, and why did I tell you to wear those pearls, and get a little bit more of the same fucking thing in every Batman story, pearls and all that, but I don't know if that was as overplayed as it is now, but maybe that's why it's overplayed, because all these movies take from this fucking story.
Oh, we got to mention that.
Yeah, we definitely got to mention pearls because Batman does.
So this is getting into the thing I was telling you. So when Poison Ivy first shows up, like obviously we're like, oh, that's Poison Ivy.
Yeah. And
then when she reveals herself later, that's the only one that was weird because
I like the way he draws Poison Ivy.
I like it. I just like, especially for some of the bigger scenes, it looks like they don't really look like leaves. They kind of just look like paper mache, like green squares.
Yeah, but that's like his style. Like he's not going to draw like a full leaf or whatever. You know what I mean?
No. And it was once I got into it, that's the only costume. Like when it first appeared, I was like, that's a weird choice.
I like it because it's implying like she's literally not wearing any clothes, I don't think. And I think just the foliage is around her,
yeah.
And it's growing all over the place.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it's cool.
It's like a cape for her or something, but like it goes up the wall, like all the vines and everything. So yeah, all the leaves are drawn like little squares and stuff, or like little trapezoids. But you're supposed to kind of look at it like back, or like it's not supposed to be so detailed that you're supposed to see all the leaves or whatever. As far as like the shapes of all of them or whatever.
Well, some of the other characters. So like you brought up Scarecrow. I really like Scarecrow's design. I thought Scarecrow looked badass.
Yeah, but he's not as intricate.
Except all the straw. Like you has all the
a couple straws, but I mean he didn't have 800,000 leaves to draw or whatever on each page.
I need you to draw out all 8,000 leaves.
I want to see the veins in every leaf, and I want to be able to know if it's deciduous or not deciduous from a tree, So, yeah, it's with that design, I understand why he did what he did. It just doesn't seem feasible to draw everything like, out. But it was very, like it was the one that's like the most different, I think, from the normal costume. Because like I said, she's not even wearing a costume in this. And like when she's actually controlling Bruce Wayne, he's like covered in foliage too, like under his suits and everything.
Was cool.
And then Catwoman breaks the spell by like ripping off like with her claws, like she shreds the leaves off of him. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So yeah, it's like it was different. That's definitely the most different. I didn't think about that, but I already knew it, so it didn't seem different to me.
No, and that's why I was saying like the first issue, I was like, this is interesting. This is unique art, and I'm not sure how I feel. And I'm like, okay, I like this. This is cool. It fits the story, and then everything's going fine. And then I was like, whoa,
yeah,
that's a weird Poison Ivy, but okay. And then like I said, it grew on me, and it was fine. It was very like, whoa, stick out like a green thumb.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people, because the Joker's in this, and I know a lot of people don't like his Joker.
His Joker's got some big teeth, and
he's got a giant mouth, and he's got like way too many teeth, and they're all crooked. They don't line up at all. So they're very it's very stylized, but it's creepy to me. I like the way it looks. He seems menacing, but like in a it's almost cartoony the way that he looks sometimes. There was one scene where he was talking to Falcone, and he whispers in his ear, and his lips are like dark black / red-ish.
Yeah.
And so when he's talking to him, it looks like it's gonna drop in, like a drop of liquid into his ear or something. Like it was like a weird thing, like he's implying, and I think he drew it like that on purpose, like he's getting into his mind or something like that. Like it was just creepy and weird. I was like, oh, that's the first time I saw that. But yeah.
He was cool, and Joker and that was cool when Joker broke out. It was very much like Joker doing his own thing, like kind of like looting places, using his little like Joker, nerve gas or whatever. To,
he flies a biplane around and stuff. He's got like the silliest story in this, but it's like fun. It like kind of brings a bit of like, I wonder what's going on in this one, But yeah, it's. The story, like we said, is long. There's like, it doesn't need to be as long as it is. I don't think it could have been 9 issues or something, but the way they told it really showcases like the art and like everything that Tim Sale has to offer. And so I'm okay with it. It also doesn't drag at all either. So
no. One of the things I wanted to say too, with the competing crime families, I really did like that so you have that going on. And then when all the money gets burned and then Falcone starts using the working with some of the villains more, so like his sister is also like a lower boss or whatever, and her and some of the other people, like you kind of get that that like, you the regular guys aren't good enough, or you got to go with these like costume freaks.
Yeah,
like they all start to kind of like,
it's kind of like the mob. The mob is mad that Batman has invited or caused all these like supervillains to come around. And they're just like dressed up crazy and shit. It's weird. It's funny that they're so mad about it,
Yeah, they're like they're not real like bad guys, like they're just doing all this crazy like havoc-y stuff around, and they're not really in it. Like, why are we even like working with them? I like that little undertone too, like of like inner fighting.
Yeah, they do not like them.
Yeah. And then a little bit later we have there's one more member of the Falcone family that comes in. It's his daughter Sophia,
who is a terrifying woman.
She is very tall, very brutish. Like she looks like she could beat up anybody.
She looks like Chris Cyborg. She looks like,
she does.
She
yes,
kind of looks like Chris Cyborg. She's gonna beat the fuck out of you.
Yes,
less Brazilian, more Italian, but that body type for sure.
Very much so.
And so
very Enforcer-esque.
Yes, and she's cool. Like her character doesn't really do much, but she seems like she's menacing. It just kind of adds like another level of, I wonder if she's gonna do something interesting, because she's so unique looking and also like stands out in the comic itself. You know what the coolest thing about her though is when the Riddler is one of the guys that Falcone's hired, and he's just obviously specifically hired the Riddler to figure out who this killer is that's been killing his men.
The holiday killer.
Yeah, and so he's got Riddler in his office, and then his daughter's there, and his daughter, they're like, you have to figure it out, and he's just throwing out like, oh, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy. And it was cool because also at the same time in a different part of town, I think it's Batman and Gordon are also throwing out, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy.
Yeah.
And like they're kind of interposing them in the comic, which I thought was a very cool way to do that. But she like, basically he's like, it's not like I'm going to die if I don't get it right? And he's like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to kill you if you don't tell me who this is. You're supposed to be the greatest fucking mind ever. And I thought that was funny that this is kind of like a reveal of how actually stupid like Riddler is in reality, but he thinks he's the best mind ever, but he's not actually, because he can't figure out something simple like this. But so while he's in the office with the daughter and Falcone, after he's like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't come up with it, he's like, I don't know who it is. And then his daughter starts like puts her hands on his shoulders and then slowly moves up his head, and he's getting like more and more nervous, and he's starting to look less like the Riddler and more like an old man who's got like stupid clothes on, basically. Like the way that they light it and everything just shows that he's just a stupid man. Like, you know, he doesn't know what he's doing, or he thinks he's like way in over his head. It's kind of like in Die Hard when Ellis is like, "Oh, I know John. Like, let me tell you, John." He's talking, you know, and he's like what, you can't negotiate or whatever, and he's like, and he shoots him, you know, like it's like that. It's like that scene almost, except she puts his hands on his head while he's like, I mean, I think I can help out or whatever, and then like she looks like she's gonna smash his head with her hand.
Yeah, looks like there's some blood starts coming out of his nose.
Yeah, and like he's got a lot of pressure coming on his head. Yeah, he's got a bunch of wrinkles that start to appear on his face, like she's pushing his skin in. It was like, holy shit, she gonna crush his skull?
Yeah.
like that's crazy. And so you wanted to talk about Riddler after this, right? Like, because right after the scene, he's about to leave.
Yeah, he's going to leave or whatever. And this is one of the holidays is April Fool's Day, and this is one of the interesting ones, and they have to try to figure out why this happened later. Is so people more than just Falcone's people start to die. And like even some of the costume villains get like in the way of things. And when Riddler is going to leave, he actually has the holiday killer appear in front of him, and he's like, oh, and like he sees supposedly who it is. And when the holiday killer goes to kill him, he doesn't kill him. He actually just shoots around him, and he shoots like like a cartoony outline around.
I thought that was a bit ridiculous, but it was fun in the comic.
Yeah. And the reason he didn't kill him is April Fool's Day.
Right.
It's like, oh, just kidding. Like, you're not going to die today or whatever. I thought that was a fun little.
I definitely thought. I mean, I wish in April Fool's. I mean, I wish that, because it also doesn't make sense for the gun, right? Like if he had a Tommy gun.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he would literally have.
But he would go 10 shots, reload, 10 shots, reload. You know, it was like 4 or 5 reloads. You know, out of the magazine, because that gun only holds 10 shots. So. Once again, they picked the gun for style, I think, over actual like usefulness in the comic. But whatever. At least I got the caliber right. You know, who knows? But yeah, so like that's kind of like the main thing. And through this whole thing, this whole story, like the families are like they're at war because all of their people are dying, and they're like, we know it's one of their guys, or one of, you know. It's not someone, it's not Dent, it's not Batman, it's not Gordon. It's got to be either Falcone's killing Maroni's people or Maroni's killing Falcone's people. So that's why at the end, pretty much Falcone's the only one who's like left with his daughter at the end, at his family. And so Maroni is kind of at the end of his wits, and he's like, fine, fuck you guys. You killed like everybody in my family. I'm going to testify against Falcone. And so he goes to testify with Harvey Dent, you know, brings him up. And I guess Falcone gets to him first and says like, hey, if you don't like.
Oh, that's what it is. And that's where Sophia comes back in, because when he's like locked up or whatever, Sophia goes down and sees him. And apparently Sophia and Maroni.
Oh, that's right.
Love, and she took a fall for Maroni because she loved him. That's why she was in jail.
Yeah, so like this lady, I mean, now she's a man eater, like for realsies. Like, and I mean, like, she will literally eat you because she's gigantic. It's like Brock Lesnar in woman form.
Yes.
and she and Maroni. I don't know if is it Maroni's son or just Maroni. It's Maroni himself. They were in love. And she was in prison. That's why she was gone at the beginning of the comic, because she took a fall for him. So now she comes down there and she says, I know you hate my father and you want to testify, but what I want you to do is actually, you have a debt. You have to pay me back, and that's what I'm calling in your debt.
Yeah, do the right thing.
You have to do the right thing, which is not testify, but you got to throw acid in his face.
Yeah, and
killed Dent basically.
And they have a in guy. I guess Harvey Dent's like little helper guy also works for.
It's like his assistant. Is also, he's been giving information to Falcone, and he actually works for Falcone.
Yeah, and he gives him the thing, because like he gives him a bottle, and it's like and then he
It
gives
says,
this
like, antacid
antacid, yeah,
treatment.
his for his ulcer or whatever for Maroney's ulcer or whatever, because he's gonna testify and he's like, oh, my ulcer's acting up.
Yeah, let me take a swig of this. And he's like, and we also see, like, right before the trial, basically Harvey Dent is pretty crazy because he, like, has a coin already, and he's, like, talking about
he got
justice.
the coin from his dad, I guess he went.
Yeah, I think that's lore, is that
Yeah.
he got it from his dad before. But he's like really overly worked for this case, and he's freaking out. And you can also see his family's paying for it, because even Gordon, they kind of juxtapose Dent's family life and Gordon's family life. And Gordon, he's got a wife, but Barbara's there helping him out, and like he's like, sorry honey, I know it's a lot, but I'm trying my best or whatever. And then like Dent's just like gone all the time, and like, trying to figure this
every
shit out.
every time he's home, she like his wife Gilda has to go and like check on him, and he'll be like down in the basement working on something, or in another room with all of his paperwork and stuff, and she always has to like pull him away. And you really see that more too, because the Gordons and them will get together on a rare occasion, like it'll show them around the holidays.
Yeah.
And like Harvey still like has to be pulled away from work, and it's like you're supposed to be together with family. Like the Gordons are here, we're supposed to be entertaining, and so like it shows Barbara or is it Barbara, right?
Yeah, it's Barbara and his wife.
Yeah, and his wife talking with Gilda, and they'll be like, oh, I wish Harvey was here more, and she's like, yeah, Jim's away, but he gets home, whatever. I'm sure things will calm down eventually.
Yeah. So at the end of this, like they're in the courtroom, just like in every rendition you've seen of how Two-Face becomes Two-Face. Basically the guy's like, oh, I got an ulcer, let me get a bottle out and take a medicine. And then the guy's like, what? And then he's like, why don't you take a look at this, DA? And he like throws the shit into Harvey's face. And it's a really good panel. I love the way they show the shit, like it's flying at him, and he's got this very surprised look, like, oh fuck. And then he falls on the floor, and it's like, that shit'll eat through cement. Have fun looking like it's just the way that they explain it. It just seems like, oh my god, his face is gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
And the way that they draw his face is very, very crazy. Like,
oh yeah, I like this.
I like this better than most renditions, where the other ones just kind of look like maybe he had like a stroke and lost blood to his face or something. It's like this basically looks like the movie when he becomes in the Dark Knight, when he becomes, and his face is just completely burned and like the eye socket and everything. Like it's like they took that picture and then made it into the movie for Dark Knight, but it's pretty close.
It is like, it just looks like grotesque flesh.
Yeah.
That has been like ripped, burned. It's yeah.
Yeah. And so they take him to the hospital, but basically he escapes now that he's all fucked up and everything. And he's like, now he's over the edge. Now he is completely Two-Face because of, what happened. And so he goes out of his way to find Falcone, and everybody's looking for him, like, where's Dent? And of course he's going to find Falcone. So he goes there, and he ends up shooting him in the head. Like, he just fucking kills him. Like, yeah. But he does the flip the coin thing, but every time he always just happens to flip it. But there's like in the meantime, when that's going on, we actually find out who the holiday killer was, because they figure it out, because the last person to die was a coroner. Right? So a coroner dies, and they're like, why would they kill a coroner? That doesn't make any sense. He doesn't have anything to do with this. So they find out that the coroner had records. Well, it's the coroner and the aunt of Alberto. I'm going to say, God damn it. I always mix up the names sometimes. But anyway, Alberto, his aunt, who was the mom of the first guy that died, the nephew.
Yeah. Sister of Falcone.
So she gets killed too. And we find out that it's because she was like investigating what the coroner knew, and the coroner knew that Alberto's body was faked. So actually, it's revealed that it's funny how it's revealed. You get Gordon, who's like, "Oh, we need to transport you, Maroney, into an area, a different holding cell." And there's like a big guard with him that you can't see his face, and he's like, "Oh, I know what that means. It means you're gonna kill me in this back alley or whatever. Do your worst, you fucking cop." And then like all of a sudden, gunshots happen. He gets killed. Maroney gets killed right away, and then the gunshots shoot the I guess SWAT guard or whatever. The guard who's all covered. And then, as you might guess, that's when they reveal, like, Gordon puts his flashlight up and you see Alberto's face. What? Alberto was the guy the whole time? And then so he's like, "Yes, I am Holiday. Ha ha ha." And then Batman ends up being the guy who was in the big costume, you might have guessed. The SWAT gear. So he's like, "What? You should be dead. I shot you with my 22 into your Kevlar vest. Why aren't you dead?" And so apparently that guy didn't know that you can't kill someone with a 22 if you shoot it into Kevlar.
Yeah.
And so Batman beats the fuck out of him. And they're like,
and he almost kills him, actually. Like he almost,
does.
because it's been a year of chasing this guy.
Everybody's been driven almost mad from this killer and the gang fights and everything going on. So he doesn't kill him.
Yeah, Jim's like, you cannot be as bad as them, Batman. Come on. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. No killing. That's my number one rule, right?"
Yeah. And so we get like kind of the end. Like we said, the dad gets killed. Falcone gets killed. I assume does he get killed with his daughter? Does his daughter get killed too?
She doesn't. She's so it kind of the grand thing is so Two-Face shows up, but he shows up at Falcone's place with all of the villains, kind of like the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah,
and that's a cool panel. It's got like Joker, and with some of them we hadn't even seen in the comic, like Penguin and whatnot. And so they're all there. And Two-Face, this is like the actual reveal of him because he's in the back still. And every time they've shown him, he's kind of, that one side of his face has still been dark. And they actually did this a couple times in the comic. I don't know if you saw. I really like that, like showing him going like kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It would show only half of his face, or half of his face would be dark, even before the acid.
Oh, I noticed.
So that was fucking
I noticed
cool.
that. They also had, like when he had the coin just from his dad, his hand was like half black and half white, and they did a good job like setting up the art in that.
So, and then when Falcone goes back up to his office and there are all the Rogues Galleries there, that's when Two-Face is finally revealed. You see his crazy face, and he does the coin flip thing, and then Sophia comes in the room too, and kind of tassels with Catwoman, because Catwoman's there again. She's kind of playing both sides of the coin there too. Yeah,
and so Catwoman and her, like while they're fighting, they roll out of the window, and then Sophia, like, just, I don't know if they don't really show exactly what happened. She's like, "Don't, Sophia," and then Sophia's like, "I'll kill," and so it seems like Catwoman's able to grab the bar, from falling off this like skyscraper.
Yeah,
so she's on the ledge, and it seemed like she was going to grab her or was grabbing her, but then she slipped. Because maybe Sophia was trying to kill her or something. So I don't know. But she falls to her death. So Sophia is killed by gravity. And then, because that's the only thing that could kill a large person like that. So, and so, now Falcone's dead. Maroni's dead. The only person that Two-Face now can blame for everything going on, why he was scarred, he goes after now, which is his Harvey Dent's assistant, who was able to give the acid to Maroni on the stand. So he flips his coin and that guy dies. I'm assuming that he just like fucks his coin up on both sides for some of these. So there's no justice or whatever.
And the next part's kind of cool because like the bat signal goes up, and so Batman thinks Jim's calling him, and he gets up there, and it's actually Two-Face.
Yeah, and Two-Face, actually both of them, like Gordon and Batman, show up because Gordon's like, "What the fuck?" And so Two-Face is talking to them and is like, "It's all over, huh? Like, this, there's nothing to believe in anymore." And, like that guy, Alberto's going to get the gas chamber, and, it didn't have anything to do with any of this shit. Like it wasn't me, it wasn't you, it wasn't what we thought, like why this was going on, why this holiday killer was going on. So So like he's like Two-Face is super jaded, of course, to everything now. He's like, the system doesn't work. Fuck it, I'll show you. And so he actually gives himself up to them to be like, I'll get out of here. I'll get put in Arkham and I'll escape, and it won't, just like everybody else does. And so he actually lets himself get arrested. And he also says like, oh, there were 2 holiday killers. He's like, what? He's like, I was one too, because I killed Falcone on Halloween, because today is Halloween for him. Yeah. So he says, oh, there's more than one killer. And they're like, oh, really? And then we see, as he gives himself up, they're talking, and they're like, do you really think he was Holiday too? And it's like, oh, no, maybe the last murder was him for sure. So
but Alberto already confessed to all the others. So
yeah, and so he's going to the gas chamber. So we don't really know. We assume Alberto was the main guy, but then we get like Harvey. Now he's locked up, and he says Gilda, and then we cut back to her house, and she's moving. That's Harvey's wife, Gilda, and she's got a box, and she's like, instead of putting it with all the other boxes, she takes it down to the furnace, as you have, like a burning furnace in your house, and she starts burning some stuff, and we see it's a hat and a trench coat and a gun and everything, the bottle nipple and everything that was used to kill people. So basically, and this is the part we were confused on. We had to like 100% go back and just kind of read the Wikipedia on this to make sure we knew what we were talking about. But she was actually the killer of the first 3 murders. So she was like, I'm sick of Harvey not paying attention to me and him not being around, and we're supposed to have a family. So she goes a little batty, a little crazy, and she kills the nephew and the henchman and the guard, right? Like his security guy,
yeah.
Right? And then that's like while she's blown up in the hospital. I guess she got out to do that. Oh my gosh, she was in the hospital, whatever. Then the night she comes home from the hospital, she mentioned, hey, how come your hair's wet, honey? He's like, oh, it was snowing outside, but he was wearing a hat. So then she thinks, oh, Harvey must have killed Alberto and everybody else after that, because now we have a secret. That's our child, and that's a secret only we will know, and we'll share, and like, I love you, and you could do no wrong, and all this. Like, she's basically gone crazy. Yeah. And like, she thinks, basically Harvey killed them for her so that he wouldn't have to work as much and wouldn't and then they could have their life together.
Yeah. And one of the underlying things throughout the whole thing that like is always on the back of what Harvey's saying, he's like, he keeps having to talk himself out, and like Batman and Jim have to remind him, is like, because Harvey's like, you got to do what has to be done,
right?
Like whatever it takes. And they're like, well, we made a pact, remember? Like, we're not gonna like go and be as bad as the bad guys. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna take them down, but we're gonna take them down together by the books, quote unquote,
forever.
Yeah,
yeah. And so like, that's like, she thinks that Harvey did it for her.
Yeah,
and so that's like super creepy. And then like, but what we know, at least, or what we think is what makes sense, is that Alfonso actually didn't. He pretended to kill himself, and then actually killed everybody else.
And he killed everybody else because Alfonso, the only real thing about him is that his dad like loved him enough. Falcone loved him up, but didn't want him to like be part of the family business.
Right, and that's all he wanted to do was be part of the family.
So he ended up killing all these people of Maroni's family to then be like, see, Dad, I can do my own. I can be bad like you. And then
can be a Falcone.
And then he kills so many people that he's like, oh, I'm bigger and better than all this. I'm the holiday killer, quote unquote. I don't need, I'm a bigger thing than you could ever be.
Yeah.
So, but all of this boils down to is that all of this, and even Batman, and Jim talk about this for a second, like, was it worth it to take down all these guys finally, but to lose Harvey to all of this?
Right.
And like, that's the really messed up part, is that like, so Harvey's wife was a catalyst and cause of this. Batman and Jim were catalysts to this, to all like not that he wasn't driven and already kind of going a little crazy,
right?
But like, they all helped push Harvey over the edge to like to me now, after reading this story, Two-Face is
more
like
sympathetic.
the most sympathetic and most like, oh, I feel for a Batman villain of all of them now.
Yeah, this was like a great story for Two-Face, like of how he became Two-Face. I don't know if they did one before this that made more sense or whatever, or like had the same impact. As far as I know, the only like origin of him was ever just court, the court day that they got acid thrown in his face, and there you go. So, but besides that, I don't know if there was ever like a as touching version of this, because especially with his wife going crazy and stuff, it's like, oh man, like he never got that. And then of course the last words of this are like, as Gilda saying, I believe in Harvey Dent, like, because we're like we have a secret together or whatever, so yeah, it's very it's a little confusing at the end, because you find out from her that she was the killer of the first three, but also it kind of muddies the water because she says Harvey's the killer of the others, but we know that Alberto was. At least that's what everybody found as far as the detectives and Gordon and everybody. And it all makes sense if Gordon did it. Not like, why would he kill the coroner? And it doesn't make sense for everybody if it was just Harvey. But Harvey is technically the third killer because he kills Falcone on Halloween.
Yeah.
So technically there's 3 holiday murders, and those are the 3. His wife, Alberto Falcone, and Harvey Dent, or Two-Face. So, yeah, that is the basic main story of this. Like you said, this is a long one. There's a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah.
So I would highly suggest going and reading this yourself to get the full effects, especially of the art of Tim Sale, who's fucking amazing. And then like the story is pretty tight for I gotta say, Jeff Loeb knocked this one out of the park for sure.
Oh yeah. So
and the writing is super concise. It flies by, like we said. There's really no reason why you shouldn't pick it up. And I think it's on sale right now on Comixology.
Yeah,
so go pick it up on Comixology. But I think it's like $15 or something like that, or $12. Maybe even less. I don't know. Normally it's $30 because it's like 13 issues, so it's like a pretty expensive trade paperback. But yeah, or go buy the Absolute because it looks fucking awesome.
I was gonna say, after reading this,
it's out of print.
Oh, of course. I was like, well, maybe they'll reprint it eventually.
They probably will. They'll probably do it in like a deluxe. Actually, I prefer a deluxe format where it's like just a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
but it's like a nice hardcover.
I will probably end up owning this one. This is definitely up there.
This is good for sure. So, on that note, what would you give it, John?
Man, I keep not wanting to give it that perfect score, but like this is like the best Batman comic I think I've ever read.
Really?
Like I like this even more than, because I loved The Dark Knight too, Frank Miller's. Right. But I just loved the detectiveness in this, or his.
Yeah, like this is a mystery. This is a detective story.
I'm a sucker for whodunits.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome. I loved it, and like I said, I was kind of like iffy on the art at first, so I wasn't quite like, I was like, oh, it's like, because I was like, it's kind of 90s, but it's like the best looking 90s I've ever seen. It doesn't like fit the mold of like being like,
it's not 90s like not like Wildcats or something.
Yeah, or like Captain America's ridiculously large chest. I'm putting it in the fact that like it's out there and different than like a lot of 90s art was, but not in the bad sense at all. Like a lot of 90s art. I'm saying that and you're like, what?
Yeah.
No. It threw me off at first, but then as I got into it, I was like, oh no, this is cool and it fits the story. And no, it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 9 as well. Like you said, it's one of the best Batman stories I've read. There is a little bit of confusion. I think it could have been a little bit tighter. I'm not mad at it because it was 13 issues of awesome Tim Sale artwork.
Yeah.
If it was a different artist, I probably would be like, all right, why is this dragging out so long?
That was the thing we were at the end there when you said like it could have been a little more concise.
Yeah.
So they arrest Harvey and then they're like, and then Jim and Gordon and Batman are talking and they're like, was it worth it? And you see Jim go home and Jim's talking with Barbara and then he's like, everything will be fine. Like, I believe in Gotham. I believe in Batman. Like, he kind of changes the narrative a little. And there's an awesome splash page of Batman standing on, like, the edge of a thing. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I assume that was the end. I flipped the page and, oh, there's more story. And there's a little bit more of like follow up. And then I was like, okay, this is done. And then flip the page and it's Harvey Dent in jail talking to Gilda. I'm like, okay, there's a tiny bit more. And I read it. And then it's Gilda being like, I love you. I believe in Harvey Dent. That. And I was like, it's kind of Lord of the Rings. There's like 3 places I felt like it could have ended.
Yeah. Are they ending in Rivendell or what the fuck? You know? Like,
not in a bad way.
Why are we going back to the Shire?
It all added to it. And and the big reveal at the end of her being the first holiday killer. So that was cool.
Yes.
I see that. I just was like, oh, like it seemed like there were like 3 definitive places it could have ended.
Yes. Yeah, I mean it could have, but I mean I didn't hate it. I didn't mind it at all actually.
No.
So, I mean that's why I'm giving it a 9. Like it's almost perfect. I think Jeff Loeb is sometimes he's a little too clever for his own good. And this had a little bit of that in it, but not enough to make me like not hate it. It's just maybe if it was 1 issue less or something, it would be a 10 or I don't know. I don't know what could make it a 10. It just doesn't. Maybe if it was more groundbreaking. I think just because it's a Batman story and it's just straight on meat and potatoes detective, it doesn't feel as groundbreaking necessarily as maybe it is. Like I said, I don't know if this is the first full tale of how Two-Face became Two-Face. And if it's that, then it's a 10. But if it's not, then it's a 9. But I mean, we're splitting hairs there, you know? So like, because Tim Sale's artwork is so fucking awesome in this. And if for reference of what Tim Sale artwork looks like, if you've seen Mike Mignola's artwork, like Hellboy or that kind of stuff, he's very similar to that. He uses a lot of dark shadow and color where it's like just the whole background's black, like black. And then Batman will be standing there and he's blue, like super deep blue. And then he'll have black shadows all over him. No like grays or like no like light casting a yellow on. It's just black or blue or, you know, it's very, very deep color.
Deep, rich purple cat suit.
And I was telling John the absolute of this because I saw it before has like 16-inch thick pages just to have that ink.
That much ink.
You know, that much ink in it on each side. It's like so thick. But yeah, it's like one of the best artist renditions of like their own Batman world, especially in the 90s when all the Nightfall stuff was going on and Azrael and all that. Like there's some shitty artwork in that run.
Yeah.
This is him going like during the same time, like I'm not following any of that. Here's my shit. Oh yeah. Check this shit out. And it's awesome. And like
I want to say one last thing on the art. I forgot. It was one of my favorite things too. Specifically with Batman and Catwoman and Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne. There were so many really cool transitional pieces of art. Like Batman and Catwoman were fighting and then they're like finishing up and they're like kind of holding hands a little bit. Like as far as like Batman like holding her like he's going to like let her go or whatever. And then that panel of Batman and Catwoman's hand together, the next panel is Bruce and Selena holding hands walking to, you know, whatever thing they're going to. And there were several of those like that specifically in their relationship. And I just thought that I love the parallel. It's so cool.
And also I think that's all Tim Sale.
Yeah.
Because just reading other volumes of their stuff together, like Jeff Loeb is the best with Tim Sale. Then when you read Jeff Loeb with other artists, he's all right. But like he's nowhere near as good as he is with Tim Sale. And I think that's Tim Sale elevates his writing to make you think, oh, he must have added that in the script. And I don't think he did. I think Tim Sale does that stuff on his own and adds that. And then like it just seems to us like, oh yeah, that's part of the story.
Nice.
You know, like so I think Tim Sale elevates Jeff Loeb to a level where he is like like, oh wow, this is masterful. So yeah, we both give it a 9. Next week we're doing I guess you know what? I already said we were doing this and we took a break for Halloween. So we're going to put it out now, which was Genius, the second volume, which is called Cartel. We noticed Genius has been getting a lot of downloads. So we were like, oh, well, I guess we'll do the second volume. And then I said that like 4 weeks ago. And then we ended up doing all these Halloween books because we realized, oh shit, we're already like into the month of October where we have to do all these Halloween books. So sorry for putting that off so much. But now you get it. Now you get it in the next week. And I hope you guys liked our Halloween stuff.
Yeah, I hope you liked all of our Halloween. We're going to put out polls and stuff, and let us know in the comments too, what was your favorite episode, whether it was one of the mini ones or one of our big weekend issues. Let us know. Yeah. Give us some good feedback or bad feedback.
Or bad. Yeah. Tell us we suck and you hate the sound of our voices. But on that note, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, @gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We're going to have some good stuff coming out here for November will probably be a little slower, but we're going to have some fun stuff in
I don't think there's any Thanksgiving specials. Or
the Thanksgiving special.
Yeah, maybe there's a Punisher Thanksgiving special. We'll find out.
Thanks killing with the Punisher.
There you go. But for sure we'll do something for for Christmas, just like we did last year. But maybe pick 3 books or a couple books that are like Christmassy or somewhat, and then
so a lot of comics have some holiday specials.
At least snow in it.
Yeah.
So all right, well, we'll see you guys next time
on the next one.
Bye.
Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.